when you go out into the world on the media, you see these transformative before and afters, right? And so people go into this journey oftentimes with this expectation that like, that's going to be me. Well, we know now that about 5 to 10% of patients are not going to have the same physiological response to these medications. They have a lot slower weight loss. Sometimes they have non-responders to the medication. So now we've created coaching and support for that cohort of patients as well, to remember their value is not tied to their weight or their response to their GLP-1 medication. And I think we're just trying to honor the human experience in our program.
New choices, new players, new models of care. You know consumer first healthcare is everywhere. For us to build the future, to see what's new, we gotta look at the world from a different point of view. Consumer innovation ain't going away. I say it's here to stay. Today it leads the way. We gotta drop the silos. We're all the same team. Experience, business, tech, and marketing. So join us now. Join the revolution. Consumer first health is the evolution. Status quo or like status no. Yeah, this is the healthcare rap. Yo, come on, let's go.
Welcome back to the leading podcast about consumer-centered healthcare. We're continuing to drive change at the intersection of traditional sick care and consumer-based well care. Our goal is to influence healthcare leaders to design products and services that are centered around what people actually need and expect out of their healthcare experience, and to inform everyday consumers about those products and services. I'm Jared Johnson, and this is episode 438. Today, we have the Flava of the week about Samsung acquiring Xealth. Will this move help bridge the gap between wellness and medical care? And is it a signal that consumer companies are investing again in truly connected care? I'll talk about that. Then Sina Arham, co-founder of Friday's Health, describes the success stories that come when we humanize weight management. He shares how living with obesity in our country feels like living as a second-class citizen, how metabolic health is about more than just prescriptions, and why Friday's blends coaching, community, and habit design in their approach. You're going to learn a lot from this one, folks, so it's time for the awesomeness. Are you ready? Let's go.
Flava of the week.
We may never bridge the gap between wellness and medical care fully, but Samsung's latest acquisition is certainly a step in the right direction. According to MedCity News, on July 8th, Samsung announced its plans to acquire Xealth, a digital health startup spun out of Providence 8 years ago. Samsung has developed a suite of products over the last few years to monitor health at home, such as wearables and ambient sensors. The company also wants to turn its devices like phones, TVs, and other appliances into a foundation for ambient home health monitoring over the next couple of decades. To act on that vision, Samsung needs integration into clinical workflows, hence the acquisition of Xealth. Seattle-based Xealth works with health systems to help them integrate digital tools into providers' workflows. The company combines various tools from different vendors into a single platform, which gives providers a more accurate view of their patients' health. Its customer network spans more than 500 hospitals across the country, such as Providence, UPMC, Mass General Brigham, Advocate Health, and Banner. A press release from Samsung went on to say that this acquisition will further their push to unify fragmented health information and to empower individuals to take control of their own health. Often, customer health data measured on wellness tools and clinical records at hospitals are managed separately, leading to missed insights and delayed care. Samsung's been heavily investing in sensor technologies on wearables, which are essential tools to follow one's well-being throughout both day and night. With this diverse product portfolio, especially around home, Samsung helps connect these various devices to bring better context and personalization around healthcare. The acquisition of Xealth will reinforce this commitment by becoming the cornerstone to advancing their care at home vision of connecting and bridging wellness and medical care. Ryan Rule, Samsung's head of strategy for digital health, posted on LinkedIn and said, "Our care at home vision to bridge the gap between wellness and medical care takes a giant leap forward with the acquisition of Xealth. This will make it easier for patients to stay engaged, providers to act with better context, and health systems to deliver more proactive, personalized care." So, what's the consumer lens here? I feel like this move has potential. If it's done right, it could finally close the loop. The smartphone that tracks your sleep, the phone that flags potential issues, and a nudge from your care team, all talking to each other, all in one ecosystem. No more download this app, log into that portal, or wait for a callback, which is good because consumers are tired of friction. So any news about connecting wellness and medical care will be welcomed by pretty much everyone. Now it's up to Samsung to deliver. Let's cheer for more signals that consumer companies are continuing to put their money where their mouth is and investing in the infrastructure to create truly connected care. That's another way that we'll build the healthcare of tomorrow, and that's the Flava of the week. Hey y'all, I'm here with Jessica Holton, co-founder of Ours Privacy. Jessica, how do health systems know how much marketing data to track?
Know what you're optimizing for. We see and hear about a lot of teams that are tracking everything they possibly can, which you would think is more info is better, and we can make more decisions if we have more information. But actually, it just sends more data that is potentially PHI, and you have less control over it when you're tracking everything. Instead, choose 1 to 2 key metrics that you are tracking and focus on those metrics.
Thanks, Jessica. Visit oursprivacy.com for more information and tell them you heard about it on the Healthcare Wrap.
Healthcare Wrap is sponsored by Xealth. Whether you're trying to drive patient volume as a healthcare provider, boost membership enrollment as a health insurer, drive improved adherence rates in pharma, or deepen strategic B2B partnerships throughout the healthcare ecosystem, Xealth can help you with your go-to market efforts and growth targets, enabling you to reach the clinical and financial goals of your healthcare organization. For more information, go to Xealth.com. That's CYRALL.com.
All right, everyone, let's get into the flow. Please welcome Sina Arham. Sina is a co-founder of Fridays Health. Some of you will know it better as Join Fridays. Today, we're going to be digging into metabolic health. It's, again, one of our themes this season. Over the last couple of years, we've really been exploring a lot of different sides, and there are reasons to keep talking about this. We're going to talk about specifically how metabolic health influences consumers' health and healthcare behaviors. So I just really think you'll enjoy Sina's perspective on the intersection of all these topics. So, hey, let's dive right in. Sina, welcome to the Healthcare Wrap.
Thanks, Jared. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
For those who aren't familiar, can you give us maybe a 2-minute introduction to Fridays?
Yeah, absolutely. So Join Fridays, as Jared said, that's how it's come to be known. We are a nationwide telemedicine platform. We're focused on metabolic health, obesity care, chronic weight management, bringing a holistic approach to the space. We've been doing this for about 2 years now. And as we've grown and built a big community around the care that we provide, we're also kind of seeing the future of this space and how we can continue to evolve and grow and support our patients. So an obesity care, metabolic health focused practice today, but hopefully many more things in the future.
Yeah, I think we'll dive into a couple of those things because I think it'll help our listeners to hear kind of some of the products, the offerings essentially there to get a better idea of what's all involved. But maybe I can start here and kind of even level set a little bit because I feel like overall you're tackling metabolic health in a totally new way. Like I said, I think there are reasons for that. I think there are reasons why it's in the spotlight of our country right now. What do you think is broken in the traditional approach to metabolic health, and what are you kind of doing to flip the script there?
Yeah, let's be honest. The moment in metabolic health is being driven by the GLP-1 receptor agonist class of medications, right? We finally have something that is addressing metabolic health, obesity, and type 2 diabetes in an elegant fashion, right? It's efficacious. It's manageable for patients. It's tolerable in most situations. And so I think that is, I often say that we're having our moment in metabolic health in that the old guard of tackling metabolic health and obesity has a lot of stigma attached to it, a lot of shame and blame and guilt, right? The average patient over the last 40 years that wanted to go talk to their provider about excess weight, the conversations, if you talk to the patients, and I've talked to thousands at this point, they're not comfortable. They haven't been comfortable. A lot of times the doctor will tell them, yeah, this is a trope I'm going to say, but eat less and move more, right? And of course, that is a critical part of improving your metabolic health, but it ignores the individual, right? It ignores the underlying dysfunction that most of these patients are experiencing. And so I think that we decided to come into this space, but so myself, actually by trade, I'm a dentist, and my business partner, my co-founder, he's an obesity physician. And so he obviously has the training, but for me, metabolic health comes from a personal experience, familial history, and an understanding of a lot of the stigma and the social elements to metabolic health, to managing obesity. And so we came together and decided, we both came from obviously clinical healthcare backgrounds, with a dream to make big changes in our patients' lives, and went through our training, got all those student loans, got into practice, and realized hey, we're kind of just like cogs in the machine here. It really felt like, my partner said this once and it like stuck with me. He said, I feel my job at the hospital is to sign paperwork that makes sure that pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies get their money.
Wow.
I don't really feel like I'm a part of inspiring change or really healing people. Of course, in the work, by definition, that is, what you're doing. But there was a certain feel to healthcare that we had thought we were going to have when we were 20, 21, doing all the MCATs and that training. And we didn't have that feeling. And so when we came together and started work on Fridays, we said, I remember we had this conversation. We said, this is our opportunity to provide the care, to practice the healthcare that we thought we were going to practice 18 years ago when we got into healthcare. So that's what we decided. We sat down and we looked at obesity and metabolic health, right? It's a biopsychosocial condition, right? There is a biological component. There's a psychological component. There's a social component. And for every patient, there can be a mix and match of, right? It could be fully biological for somebody. It could be for somebody else. It could be a hormonal change that happened later in life, or an injury, a chronic injury, or a psychological. There's a lot of trauma involved, right? A lot of childhood trauma can be, early risk factor for developing obesity later. Even like food insecurity is often overlooked as something that becomes a huge driver later in life. And so we said, if this is a biopsychosocial solution, there is not a single pharmaceutical that is going to just be like the be all, the fix all, right? Let us provide a biopsychosocial solution, a true biopsychosocial solution. And for patients who come, if there is a fully biological, no psychological, no social for them, well, then maybe a GLP-1 medication and some dietitian visits are going to be what drives the majority of their healing. But our support groups have become a place where if you come and just sit in on one support group, I dare you not to get teary-eyed or at least get goosebumps just hearing this collective healing and this collective moment of like being seen and being heard and feeling vindicated for a lifetime of suffering that is now turning a corner. It's the most inspiring work that I've ever had the pleasure of being a part of. It has changed my life personally just to be a part of all of this healing in one place.
Let's dig into that for a moment because you mentioned the groups, the community behind this. Tell me kind of what's involved here with the Fridays offering, with the approach, and who is that member, who is that person who's benefiting the most?
Yeah. So the program, the way we've built it is that you start by getting evaluated by a provider to determine if you'd be a fit for the medications that we offer, right? So once that first step is passed and in the current state, we actually have all of our patients go through and do an initial video visit with a provider. Not that there's necessarily any like pathology to this, but I think that the telemedicine space has begun to practice heavily in like the forms and asynchronous care and like chats. And we felt like our message or our approach, we wanted to have a personal touch to it, a personal relationship, let our patients be seen. So it starts with that initial consultation. And then it goes into, you come into the patient portal and you're immediately prompted, hey, book a visit with what we call a journey support coach. So everything I'm going to mention here is included. So with the purchase of a medication, once approved, everything else is just a part of what it means to be a Join Fridays community member. So a journey support coach is a certified medical assistant that kind of will hold your hand through the journey, right? So coming up to challenges, maybe side effect issues, pushing through plateaus, and also helping you with goal setting and habit stacking. So if let's say a patient, they meet via video and they build a relationship and they say, my goal is to, what's one goal that you have to the patient? My goal is to start getting 2,000 steps a day in, right? The journey support coach will check in on you, will text you, hey, how are those steps going? Just alongside your journey to just make sure, like, is there anything I can do to support you in trying to reach those goals? Once we hit it, let's habit stack. Let's set the next one. We have registered dietitians that are doing GLP-1 coaching. So they meet with you, understand your dietary restrictions, put together a meal plan, follow up with you. We also have them available via chat, live chat throughout the week. So if you're making a food choice at a restaurant or a supermarket, you can send a picture and say, hey, this is what I'm looking at. Which one do you think based on my goals and what I'm at, what my current macros are? And then oftentimes can get like a real time, hey, grab this one, not that one, or order this one, not that one. This might be the best for you. And then our group coaching is where I think a lot of interesting things happen. We have mental health counselors that do mindset coaching. They do inner child healing, meditation. And then we also have just general broad support groups that are like, just come, rest your weary head, talk about relationship issue you might be having or anything. And everyone's there together. And oftentimes the conversation is like, I've heard one I sat in on recently where it was I told my coworker I was on a GLP-1 and she was very supportive of it. And then a few weeks later, we were at a group dinner, at work dinner, like a happy hour. And we were in a booth and somebody brought up GLP-1s, and that same coworker was like bashing them, and she had forgotten that I had told her that, and she had been supportive of me. And I felt like really, I was embarrassed. I wanted to leave. And these moments that happen for people and for patients, and being in a place where you don't have to explain it, everyone gets it, is just, I think community is one of the primary drivers of not only health, but longevity. We know this now. And so building a community here to us is a critical part of it. So inside of that, there's also live fitness classes. We try to have about at least 6 live group sessions per week is our goal, that can range through all of these different topics. So usually Monday through Friday, you can get at least 1, sometimes 2 sessions that you can catch in a day. And the ones that are less sensitive topics, we record them and place them in the patient portal for people who can't make it to kind of view it and go through it later. Like support groups that are a little bit more emotional, we want people to feel like it's a real safe space. So those aren't recorded, but other sessions, we try to make sure everyone's got busy lives. So
is there a type of person who you're seeing benefit from this more than others?
The person who wants the support is benefiting the most, if I'm being completely honest. We have plenty of patients who come to us because we also try to make it very affordable. We have very competitive pricing, and they just want the and truthfully, I want the medication, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. I don't need a dietitian. This is not what I want. And we support that and we honor it. But the patient who wants more and is seeking it out actively is gaining so much from it. The feedback that I get, the messages that I get from our patients that are like, I was getting my meds from my doctor or from another company, and I didn't realize how much the support was actually a part of what was missing from my journey. So yeah, I think that really that's it. The patient who wants it.
I love that. Well, you keep using the word support, and I just think this is a shift. This is a paradigm shift in metabolic health of moving from stigma to support. It feels like the approach here that you're describing is one vehicle that's helping make that change. So how do you think about behavior change differently now? Because that's different than old clinical interventions on their own.
I think what's interesting is the program that I'm mentioning to you today is one that's been built over the last 2 years. All of these pieces weren't here on day one. We had dietitian group coaching on day one, and we had support groups on day one of our program launch. And everything else has been kind of modularly built into it as the program has evolved through the feedback of our patients. For example, our support groups, when we first started, we had 95% of our patients were on their first month, second month of their GLP-1 journey. Okay. Now that we've been here for a few years, we have so many patients that have reached their maintenance. They've reached their goal weight, so to speak. They're in maintenance. And that's a whole different journey that you really aren't prepared for. If somebody who's managed chronic weight their entire lives, they're suddenly at what we would consider a normal BMI. And we can get into how broken the BMI measurement is, but a normal BMI. And now understanding what that life and lifestyle and behavior and everything looks like in that world, right? So we started getting patients that were increasingly larger cohort of our patients that were in maintenance and saying, hey, we need different kind of support. So then we broke off and we have maintenance coaching from dietitians and maintenance coaching from support groups, like from mental health counselors, to Dr. Joy, who I think you should have a great conversation with one day, but she's a mental health counselor. And one thing she says is the things that you've gone throughout your life, they may be in some ways like the starting point or wrapped up very complex in the journey of your obesity. But if you don't address them, when the weight goes away, they're still there under the weight. And so we think that it's really important to help our patients tackle simultaneously with their weight loss, all these other elements of their life and of their journey. And so we've also broken out what we call a slow and non-responder coaching, because when you go out into the world on the media, you see these transformative before and afters, right? And so people go into this journey oftentimes with this expectation that like, that's going to be me. Well, we know now that 5-10% of patients are not going to have the same physiological response to these medications. They have a lot slower weight loss. Sometimes they have non-responders to the medication. So now we've created coaching and support for that cohort of patients as well, to remember their value is not tied to their weight or their response to their GLP-1 medication. And I think we're just trying to honor the human experience in our program, if that makes sense. When you say, how are we approaching behavior? Behavioral modification is a really broad term. If you look at holistic care, you just meet every person where they're at and try to honor where they're at and where they're trying to go. Now, of course, at a large scale practice like ours, that ultra individualized care can be challenging. So we try to give them individual provider care, individual coach care, and individual dietitian care, but some of the other parts of the journey, like patient, if our mental health counselor suspects that in these group sessions, a patient could use a little bit closer care, they'll have a direct conversation and say, hey, I think that you could probably benefit from getting some mental health counseling done through your journey. I would love to see that for you. Can we help guide you in that direction? So that's outside of the care of our practice, but that's kind of really what it is honoring each individual patient in their journey.
I love that. You're really opening my eyes just to think about even the maintenance part as a different journey. And at the base of it all, honoring that human experience. I love that thought here because that is one way we're clearly going to continue to evolve the approach. Because it makes me think, how does somebody get on a journey here at all, right? Are they more aware? Are they hearing about something from somebody else and just coming in maybe initially for medication and then learning about these other pieces, or are they coming? How do we basically help even more people take advantage of and become members here and see the value of it? Because I know that's a process that's part of the scaling here. I mean, how's that happening now? How are people kind of starting this journey, getting to know you and then seeing the value of the full offering here?
That goes kind of, if you back it, that goes into like more of a marketing conversation, right? I say this, it's like Mark Cuban quotes, like every company is a marketing company. Some just don't know it yet. It's hard to market everything that I've said to you on this conversation into, usually with marketing, you have like, good luck. You have half a second. You have to distill it down to a single still image on Meta and boom. A lot of what I'm saying to you and what I've learned, part of it is my own personal experience in my family, but I need to take a moment to honor the patients and the, what we call brand advocates that create on behalf of Fridays. So these are folks that I became friends with on TikTok. I started going on TikTok live 2 years ago, just saying, hey, this is my company and this is what we're trying to do, right? And started to build a community in that way, kind of stumbled into it. And a lot of creators, a lot of GLP-1, call them GLP-1 creators, they're patients that are on GLP-1s who are screaming from a rooftop, hey, everyone, like, this is the real deal. I like the snake oil that we've been sold our entire lives. This is not that. This is something totally different. And the excitement and this collective healing that I saw happening there, I just started to build relationships and friendships. I mean, we have a Discord channel with about 200 Fridays creators now that are like, these are my friends. Like, you have a group chat with your friends that you go share like something exciting. I'm sharing it in Discord with like my GLP-1 friends. This is like all I think about and all we talk about all day. That is one of the primary ways that I think like obesity is for anybody, no matter how you got there, whether it's the bio, the cycle, the social, or a combination of the three in almost all cases. Living with obesity in our country is living in a lot of ways like kind of a second-class citizenship. Really, like I had a patient tell me this once, made me very emotional in the early days. She said, can I ask you a question? And she said, yeah. And I said, yes. She said, you live in a small body. I said, yes. And she said, when you go to Starbucks, does the barista like smile at you when you're ordering? And I said, yeah, I think so. And she's like, how often? And like, how many out of 10 times? I said, I think all 10 times. She's like, so she'll interact, smile, laugh, da, da. I said, yes. And she says, maybe 1 out of 10 for me. And she's like, I feel as though I'm in the same room as you, but I'm looked through. And it like shot through my heart because I understood what she was saying, if I'm being honest. I understood. She said they don't make eye contact with me. And I was like, I'm not really sure why, but I know it. And so many patients have since told me that when you lose the weight, you also get treated very differently in our society and in our world. Doors are getting held open and promotions are potentially being offered. And I feel honored to have been allowed to become a part of this community because I've never lived in a bigger body. And this is a big part of how our brand and our voice gets out there is because they have come and they have experienced it and they have healed. And it's such an emotional journey that I think the most powerful way for people to understand what is happening right now, what is this metabolic health revolution, we will look back at this period, these early 2020s, as I believe, a complete pivot point in how we approach metabolic care, healthcare, chronic health conditions in a lot of ways, right, is changed. And I think that letting people tell their stories is the best thing that you can do to get the message out there. And this is an exciting time because they're healing and folks are excited to be talking about this and they're excited to share this. Hey, y'all, come here now. Like this could change your life and get seen by a provider and see if this is the right choice for you. And it might not be, but this is our moment. It's a beautiful time.
Is that the long game here? Is that continuing that journey? Is that, I mean, it's bigger than building a company. Like, it's bigger than building a brand. It is offering support and healing, which are the two words you've used the most. And I respect and honor that. I mean, just the thought of that's the approach here is we're getting somewhere. Like, that's the thought here. We're getting somewhere with preventing chronic disease and just thinking bigger. Are we thinking even bigger than that?
I'd like to get really good at the thing that we came here to do. And I think we are, but we can be better. And so we actually just this week have launched our first ever product outside of the GLP-1 space. We've launched a longevity program with MIC-B12, NAD+, and sermorelin. And again, that's come from our own patients. A lot of our patients that are experiencing this healing, they're now motivated to try to understand, are there other ways that I can reach other new health goals that I didn't have, or maybe I didn't give myself the permission to have or have hope for previously. Now I'm finding myself in this state where they're hungry for more and they come to us and say, hey, I'm coming to Fridays for my GLP-1 and all my care, but my care is kind of fractured because I'm getting my NAD+ somewhere else. And so I do think that we should be able to try to keep one place where, to the best of our abilities, right, where our patients can receive as much of their care as possible. But I would say today, in this moment, our focus is still getting really good and at providing the wraparound support that we think these patients deserve.
Well, that's a perfect place for us to wrap up today. And we'd love to have you on again soon, because I think we are literally just getting started. And the more we can understand that bigger vision of what's possible here, help continue to evolve from stigma to support, and just like see the bigger picture and hear from you about what you're hearing as you dive into these individual stories of people being changed. I mean, this is the most hopeful approach to these topics that I've heard. So I want to thank you just for joining us, Sina, and I want to thank you for everything you're doing to make healthcare consumer-centered. We're looking forward to having you be a part of the Healthcare Wrap community and be able to continue to share these thoughts and these insights and this perspective with our community. So thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Jared. I really appreciate it.